Go, says Jen. Somebody said good to go. Is that right? Yep. Okay, so we're good. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to the 13th session of Galactic News. And I'm Gordon Davidson, and this is Corrine, my beloved wife, who's
Hello,
also
everybody.
here. She's going to help with monitoring the chats and giving me questions to answer. So great. Thank you all for coming. And we look forward to an exciting session. I got a lot of things to share, as you can imagine. There is a lot going on here right now in the world, and we want to make sure we make it all clear. Okay, so we like to begin, as we usually do, with a meditation, and then we'll follow that by my sharing all the usual wonderful things that we have to talk about. And thanks to our exciting adventures we're having with our new president, we're going to have lots to talk about. Hold on a minute. All right, there we go. Let's see if that's any better. Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Okay, so let's start with a meditation. And we're going to bring the group together and make it as good as you can. Someone's saying they need a little more volume. Let's see if this helps. Is this better now? Hold on. Oh, I know what to do. Hold on a second. I just got to do something here.
May just be his computer.
Okay. How is that? Is that helping with the volume? I just turned it up a bit. And let me know if that is helpful. Okay, so hopefully that's working. Can you all hear me okay? Just give me a little feedback. Is it working for the sound? Is it clear? Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and have a beautiful meditation to connect, and then we will move right into all the wonderful things we have to talk about, which are numerous. Okay. So let's begin by taking a few deep breaths, breathing in peace and stillness, breathing out everything else, just letting everything go. Focusing in our hearts, feeling a radiant sun of light and love in our hearts. Feel that sun getting brighter and stronger, more and more radiant, expanding, filling your whole being with love and light and joy. As we connect together on the inner levels as a united group, a group dedicated to bringing light, clarity, love, and wisdom into human consciousness through our shared communication and ideas and questions that we discuss here today, raising the frequency of consciousness for the world so that people can move forward in their lives with confidence, with understanding, knowing the deeper causes and streams of energy that are affecting what is happening today in our world, linking with the masters, inviting their presence to be with us, and linking with the Galactic Light Alliance, all those beautiful beings from beyond our Earth who are assisting us in this great transition from 3D to 5D, or as they say in ancient Hindu texts, from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga, the Golden Age. And we give thanks for the blessings of these energies being present with us and with all humanity and all life on Earth as we prepare to move into the explorations for today. As we transmit these understandings to all we come in contact with throughout our daily lives. Thank you all. Okay, well, here we are again. It's a new world and it's a new time, but it will continue to unfold as we go forward. So I want to talk today, to begin with, talking about Kali Yuga and Satya Yuga. This is many of you probably already know of this concept from Eastern teachings, from Hinduism and other teachings, where there is a period where things get very difficult and dark and dense and heavy on our planet, known as Kali Yuga. And then we move out of that cycle and upwards into what's called Satya Yuga, which is also the golden age. And we move, and the modern way of talking about this is going from 3D to 5D. But it's interesting to look back at some of what's been said before about this age, because the classical Hindu texts talk about the duration of these cycles as vast, long periods of time. So we don't think about them much as they apply today. But the evolution of consciousness that is going on and has gone on our planet is actually accelerating these cycles and condensing the cycles, compacting them. So, and of course, 9/11, with all that resulted from it, with the shift in the solar decrees, also further accelerated the cycles from Kali Yuga, moving us towards Satya Yuga much more rapidly. And according to the ancient teachings, I'm quoting here from the Agni Yoga teachings, which are the teachings of Nicholas and Helena Roerich, and from the Master Moria, there's 1942 was the end of Kali Yuga, the beginning of the end of Kali Yuga, not the ending, but the beginning of it. And we have this whole period where we have to deal with what's been built up through the whole Kali Yuga cycle in order to allow all the new to come forward. And there's a lot of wonderful new things happening, as you all know, and we need to really create the space on Earth for this, to remove these crystallizations and allow this whole new seeding to take place. I just want to read you a few quotes from Agni Yoga about this whole process. And just to give you a sense of how accurate they were, these were all written in the 40s. The relevance of these things to what's going on today. One of their quotes is, "Can one build a life amidst the hatred that prevails at the end of Kali Yuga? But the complete task of the future Satya Yuga must be expressed now amidst today's animosity and destruction." This I found so meaningful because it summarizes exactly what we tuned into with our website, Live the Future Now. We're not waiting for something to happen. We are living it now and therefore creating it. This is a very essential and fundamental thing that we are doing here. Very crucial. And then they also talk about as Kali Yuga proceeds, all processes actually speed up, which is why we should not regard the periods predicted in the past as unchangeable. They also say it causes the speeding up of karma, unrolling the scroll of karma more rapidly. This is very interesting because we see that happening so much right now. So it's really interesting. And here's another one. They will ask you, is it possible to reconcile the threatening signs of the destruction of the planet with the possibility of a harmonious and auspicious future? The fact is that humanity has a free choice to enter the new age, the age of great discoveries, the era of happiness, or by the power of free will to choose that choice or catastrophe. Our free will actually makes this choice, and that is what is determining where we are going with our future. And as I've said many times, and that is definitely where we are right now in this whole process. So another thing they say that's very interesting, they say, those who are humbled in Kali Yuga will be elevated in Satya Yuga. I find this very interesting. So it's very necessary to really move into this new state now. We don't have to wait for some other time for this to happen. And that is where we are at the moment. Okay, so that's a little bit on Kali Yuga. It's a very complex concept, and it stretches over many, many cycles of repetition of this from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga. And we can see this showing up in civilizations where there's a period of flowering and beautiful unfolding coming from, and then it will be a period where that civilization declines and then it comes back, a new one comes into birth, and it's repeated. So this is what goes on with these cycles. So I want to talk to you now more about what I am actually receiving at this moment in the time that where we are today. So the seeds of the new world civilization are all planted and growing. I think if we're paying attention to the beautiful positive developments that are happening, they are there. Those seeds, you can see it happening and unfolding. What is required is the breaking up of the crust of the crystallized structures that hold back that growth. That's what we're dealing with. So this Kali energy, and I don't know how many of you saw that someone projected an image of Kali, who is this first ray archetype that breaks down and destroys all of the old that's in the way. That image of her was projected on the building in Times Square in New York City some time ago, not that long, as I thought that was a magnificent example of this archetype of Kali breaking down the old showing up in our consciousness. The other archetypes that are really being brought forward now are the archetypes that are being brought forward through Trump's selection of his cabinet. The leaders of his cabinet and of the different departments is actually Trump is projecting the outdated crystallized structures of consciousness and values onto the screen of human consciousness. Almost every one of those appointees represents the old, most outdated crystallized way of thinking about all what we face as humanity. It's very fascinating. What this is doing is stimulating a resistance in people, and will ultimately result in the reinforcement of all the positive new growth that is underway. Because the will of life is to overcome all blockages and barriers, because that carries the power of new life. Anything that represents new life, new vision, new understanding, just like a growing plant, can break through all these crystallized, just like the plant breaks through concrete, can do it to reach the light. And that is what we're doing. These structures have to be broken down. And this is a very important thing to understand, because it's the key to what is going on in this current cycle with our new so-called president. And we'll get to that in a minute. So it's also the acceleration of this whole process is being fed by the decrees, the solar decrees that are there, that are actually been put forward, as I've shared with you, about increasing the energy to humanity to make this shift and transition, the removal of the dark leadership from our planet. And there's this tremendous energy inflow, which is affecting all of us. And it's those of us who are sensitive to energies, many of you I'm sure are, feel this energy pouring in. It's really quite extraordinary. And our whole beings are being raised up in frequency, purified, and learning more and more to be guided by our inner direction, our inner love, and not be so influenced by all that is around us. This is all a preparation for the day of revelation, so that when this energy pours in, we will be ready and at a frequency to be able to handle it with minimum disruption for us. That's really what is there for us. So all will be adjusted as it needs to be with this new inflowing energy. And so what we need now is the most important thing is to practice holding our consciousness in love, in light, and to be in that state of love all as much as you possibly can. I call it keeping your inner lighthouse in order, so that there is a loving energy field around you and within you, radiating from you, that's actually assisting you to be in that higher vibrational frequency. That is what you are meant to be doing. That is the most important thing. It's not so important to know exactly what's going to happen when or where are all these people who are going to be removed, taken to, and all that. We can talk about that, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to hold your own consciousness in exactly the right space and energy. That's the key to everything for your future and the best contribution you can make to this whole period. So, and remember that with any person, transformation and transfiguration at any point in this process is always possible when their heart is open and turned to the light of love and dedicated to the good of all. This is always possible. That shift is possible for anyone at any stage of this process. So this is really important to understand. And the alignment of the seventh solar system is the cause of the acceleration of our moving into Satya Yuga. This is the key thing. So it's very important. So, and this changes our relationship to time. This is also another very interesting thing. So as we raise our consciousness, the speed at which we can process time and our experiences increases to the point where we enter into the eternal now, where time ceases to be a factor. And that is where we are moving very rapidly into that. This begins with the entrance into 5D, 4D, and then culminates in 5D. And then we then are in a more spherical experience of time where we stand in the center of a sphere in the eternal now. And we project our consciousness out, and we can project it into the past, to the present, to the future, and ultimately all three simultaneously. That is the potential we have as we move more and more towards full experience of fifth dimension. So we're moving there. And we're going to talk a lot about, we have 2 new books coming out, one on time and how you deal with time that Karina is taking a focus for. And we have another one I'm writing on what is life in the fifth dimension all about. What is it like? What goes on there? What do you learn? And how can we work with it in our present life on Earth? And those books should be out by April. So just a little preview. So the Light Alliance is working very hard to balance the situation on the planet, which is, of course, as you know, pretty challenging in many ways. But I've been told clearly that there will be no breakdown of the financial system. There are all kinds of people out there predicting tremendous amount of upheaval in finance, and this is going to collapse and blah, 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 blah. There will be shifts and changes, but there is not going to be a total collapse, because this would cause too much upheaval for humanity. And the Light Alliance, which includes the masters, the spiritual hierarchy, all the members of the lighted members of governments all over the world, and financial leaders who are aware of the need to do this and are working on it with support from the Light Alliance. And some of that support is very direct and very well understood. They are working together to make this financial shift, a readjustment of the system, as I described before, with we eliminate interest-based money and debt, and we have a worldwide stable currency and all these other things I've talked about quite a bit. That is in process, and the plan is that hopefully will occur. It's not guaranteed, but it's a good chance it will happen before the day of revelation. So that is something we can look forward to. There's not a specific time that we can say, but it's approaching. Now let's talk about our wounded child, Donald Trump. It's like such a phenomenon of consciousness that we really need to understand him and the Republicans and what they're doing. We have to understand it at a deeper level. And I want to do this in a psychological way as well as a spiritual way. You know, he was allowed to win this fraudulent election because it is necessary for all the evil and negative patterns to be fully exposed so that people understand the effects of these lower ways of being when there's no higher soul influence coming in to help lift them and redeem those lower patterns. So the political situation we have now is, in the United States, an ignorant autocrat, very willful, is with a lot of will, is increasingly in opposition to the will of the people and to the will of life. And this is the purpose of this is to move us towards Satya Yuga by awakening people to the significance of the time and stir them to action for the good of the whole. And my goodness, it seems to be working. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this, about where exactly, how things are moving within humanity as a whole. So, and they're not acting from the inspiration or higher vision of the leader. They're acting because of the lack of vision within the leader, which is out of sync completely with people's hopes and dreams and vision for the majority of people. So this lack of vision can be just as much a stimulus and awakening to united action as having a great leader who really shows you the way. And that is exactly how Trump is necessary for our evolution. And he has to be there to do this and trigger all this kind of thing. So let's look at some of the deeper psychological aspects of this. So one of the things that's going on is I've been going through I'm telling you a little about my own process. I've been going through a deep process of trying to understand why does the Republicans keep doing this thing of wanting to remove all support for people. They want to cut all the medical support from the government. They want to report. So they're talking about taking out Medicare as well as Obamacare and taking out Social Security. And they just don't like government. They don't like having any government and have a major role in society. That's very clear. They've made that very clear all along. And so I was trying to get beyond my feelings about all this by saying, using the Christ teaching, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But that didn't work very well. And I finally had to ask myself the question, but do they really not know what they're doing? Do they really not know? And the fact is, they do know to some degree what they're doing. And it's not exactly ignorance. But they're living in a false belief, in a thought form, that any agreements for the good of the whole by the government or other things are unnecessary and limit their freedom. And it's like an imprisonment to them because they want no restrictions. That's why they're so opposed to government. This is what I got from my contact, because they want to be free to exploit, manipulate, and express their will to power without any social constraints at all. That's their ultimate inner state. Not all of them. There are good people in Republicans, but a lot of the conservative, who hate government and don't want any government. You can take this all the way to libertarianism if you want, although they're slightly different, but it's similar. So in a sense, you could say that these people are asocial. They're not social, or in some cases, they are sociopathic, clearly. That is really going on. And so now this is, if you want to look at it as in an individual sense, this is a very dangerous point in human spiritual evolution. When the soul comes in, takes on these bodies, and has to work to integrate the personality so that the etheric energy, vital energy, the emotional and mental equipment all works together. It's integrated. At that point, when it's fully integrated, you have a very powerful personality who can do a great deal and make a lot happen, especially when they have the will functioning. A lot of these people are very strong, powerful personalities. But the danger is that when they become integrated and then do not go on to the next stage of evolution, which is opening the heart and developing soul contact If they don't make that step, they are in danger of, they are in a choice point, because they will use their will to bend and manipulate people and events to benefit themselves and glorify themselves, and they cause great harm and great karma for themselves. And that is really, really there. That is going on. So they have to make a choice to move to the higher spiritual values, and many people don't move out of that those self-serving patterns and very easily or early enough. So this is an example of the spiritual definition of evil, which is persisting in something you should have outgrown. Evil is really, one definition of evil is persisting in something you should have outgrown. So it's necessary to be selfish and very individualistic in order to develop your individual self. Once that's developed and it's powerful, the next step is to transcend that and go to the soul and become a contributor and a part of humanity and give to all of life. If you don't do that step, you're not growing. You're stuck. You're really in it, and it's a very dangerous place, because what can happen is people then will choose the dark side, the dark path, and they will go down the dark side all the way to the point where they are really extremely karmically burdened and cannot move from that path, because they've made all these choices down that dark road of selfishness and greed and evil doing. This is what's here in front of us, right there on the big screen of our world. So people have to learn how to move. This is why this evolutionary crisis underlies the conservative philosophy and that all government should be reduced to the barest minimum, as one of them said, and so we can drown it in a bathtub. That's our idea about government. And with little or no sharing of wealth or protection for less developed people from the predatory actions of more developed people. They just don't want that. They don't even think it's necessary, and they don't want anyone to interfere with their freedom to use their will to dominate and control. And this is the philosophy of the Cabal. And all those whose hearts are closed and do not accept the social matrix as something that they should be honoring, or even that, or let alone the matrix of love as the basics of human life. They see themselves only as their individual power and status. We have a lot of that showing up on the big screen right now. So that is really interesting. And they try to rule without love or compassion for human beings, and without the wisdom of how to further the well-being of all life. They don't know what to do to help people. They don't even think that they should be helping people. They should just do whatever's good for them. So that's the way I came to understand how they could do this. Because I just can't see, I couldn't see, destroy the Medicare, destroy all the help that anybody can get rid of Social Security, get rid of everything. That's inconceivable in my worldview, but that, if you understand their worldview, it makes total sense. It's a lesser evolved view of life and the world. So, and there's one final point, which is the fundamental problem in our economic system is what has been described in one of the teachings as a difference between equipped and lesser equipped souls. There are some souls who are very equipped, meaning that their equipment, their personality is powerfully integrated. They have a lot of will and control, and they can do a lot of things, and they can do very well in the economic system. There's a lot of other people at earlier stages of development who are not yet at that stage, and they suffer tremendously in the current economic system. That understanding of that, and it is the responsibility, the spiritual responsibility of more developed people to help those lesser developed to move into their development. Without that understanding of that responsibility, it's every man for himself. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, and that is what we've had. This is important to understand. As Tom says, that's why they call them retrogressors. No, they want to go back to a time of, cowboy capitalism. It's a Wild West. Whoever's got the most power and the most money wins and takes everything, and everybody else, well, too bad. That is the way they are. Some of the people who are being brought into the government, that's their way of thinking and their being. That is true. Now, they're not all like this. There are some good people coming in as well, but the ruling group now, if you look at all the people assembled for the cabinet, definitely represent these very outmoded ways of thinking and value systems. But now, the end of this rule is approaching, and there are beings of light. Yeah, Tom says, in other words, they're sociopaths. Indeed, there's a certain truth to that. And so their end of their rule is approaching. And there are, we go through the day of revelation, there will be many, many beings of light who will be brought forward and come forward and take places to help us establish a government that does work of, by, and for all the people and all life, including all the natural world, the good of all. That is the plan. That is what is the image and the vision and the plan for Satya Yuga. That is what Satya Yuga will be, where all things are working in harmony, in wisdom, in balance. So, and an interesting element of this is they rely, these ones now who are in power, they rely on their self-will. They believe their self-will can conquer all. They can triumph. They can trump everything. They are the rulers of the universe, right? But when their self-will is broken, countermanded by the higher will, then they will realize that their self-will is not the final arbiter. That's what part of what the day of revelation is going to teach to these people, that their self-will is not the final authority. There is a higher will, a higher reality that is governing our world and our lives. And I certainly learned this myself, and having my self-will broken through my house burning down. I won't go into that, but I understand fully what they need to learn and how they're going to learn it is what I'm getting. And at that point, once they've realized that their self-will is not the final authority, then we can forgive them and allow them to compensate for all the harm they've caused and allow them to do what they can in the new environments they find themselves in, because many of them will not be here, as I've said many times. So that is a very interesting response to all that. So now we have the results of all this. So we've had this whole, fraudulent election. We've had all this stuff going on, and the gloating and the dominating, and we rule the world. We're in charge. We're everything. Now, part of the reason for this is to stimulate an awakening in people to understand that they are not these leaders are not the ultimate power in our society. That the people as a whole, they only govern at the permission of all the people. The election was a fraud. Hillary did win the election, but certainly in the popular vote, but even in the electoral vote, they messed with the voting machines. This will be proven when the day of revelation comes. That will be shown to be true. It was not the Russians, although they did a lot to interfere. That's certainly true. But it was also operatives within the Republican Party and other groups of people who did not want Hillary to win, who made it the way their votes were tabulated and compiled, that she lost, and Trump won by 1% in the 4 key states, every single one, exactly 1%. That's a statistical anomaly that is not in any way possible if it was an honest election. Never to have them all exactly 1% win by Trump over Hillary. And the statisticians who analyze this are making that very clear. Could you turn up the heat? Mm-hmm. And so here we are. Now, we got to deal with what we got. This is the point. We're not going to sit around and moan about what happened. So here's where we're looking at. This is so interesting. All right. So in 5 days after the election, the ACLU had donations from 241,000 donors, and they took in $15 million in 5 days. They've never had something like that happen before. And they didn't even have a solicitation out there. People just gave money to the ACLU, lots of money, and they're still doing it. because they realize that they've got to defend our rights, that Trump and all of the Republicans are so keen on eliminating all these things that help us and support us and protect us from all kinds of evil doing. People are coming forward. But it's not just ACLU. It's the Anti-Defamation League, it's Avaz, it's the Planned Parenthood Council on American Islamic Relations, the Sierra Club, International Refugee Assistance Project. Everyone is getting a huge amount of money coming into them because people are wanting to do something to protect what is going on here, to protect what we've already gained. We've had huge gains over the last 10, 15, 20 years in human rights, equality, more just and fair society for more and more people. It's not perfect, certainly not. I'm not saying it is. But the idea that we're going to take away all those gains and go back to the old days is absolutely impossible. It will not happen. The people will not allow it, and life itself will not allow it, and it's not going to happen. I'll give you a few more examples. Jerry Brown, one of my heroes, who I really love, Jerry, because he's just so there with all this. I got to find
Governor of California.
Jerry? Oh, here it is. Okay, Jerry.
Governor of California.
Jerry Brown, the governor of California. He gave a speech to the union, all the geophysical scientists and all the other scientists who are really terrified that they're going to wipe all the information about climate change off the computers because they hate idea of climate change. They don't agree with it. They think it's false. So, so Jerry Brown says California will push back against Trump's efforts to stop or reverse policies to fight climate change. He says, we've got the lawyers and we're ready to fight. This is Brown. If Trump turns off the satellites and that's what they're threatening to do, stop taking the photographs of the Earth to monitor climate change, we'll launch our own damn satellite. That's what Jerry quote. That's Jerry, what he said. And I don't doubt it. And he's talking about Texas Governor Perry, who's now the head of the Energy Department, which he thinks should be eliminated. He said, we've got more sun than you've got oil. And so the solar revolution is going on. It cannot be stopped by anything that Trump does because it's economically viable, it works, it's providing many more jobs than fossil fuels, and they are moving forward with this, and that has happened. Yes, there is a vaccination issue. I'm fully aware of that. Nobody's perfect. Jerry hasn't been educated enough on that particular issue. But on the other issues, he's really good. How about Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York? He gave us a great speech, and he said, if they tell us that we have to deport people from residents of New York because they're not from this country, he said, we will not comply. If they tell us we can't use community policing and have to go back to stop and frisk, we will not comply. This is what he said, the mayor of New York. So already you're seeing the beginnings of this resistance to this, retrogressive movement that they want to do. That's just a little bit of it. I mean, there's so much going on. I can tell you a lot more things. Here's a fun one. I love this one. This is in the New York Times full-page ad. If you could, it's looking backwards to me, but no, in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept fascist America. Full-page ad in the New York Times, and it's from the refusefascism.org. I never heard of this group. I don't know who it is. It's got a lot of very famous people like Ed Asner and all kinds of people that you know. And it's really about saying we're not going to just roll over and let them do whatever they want to do. It's not going to happen. And that's really wonderful. And that is, in fact, what is intended to come out of this is a waking up and activating of humanity in this country to take responsibility for our own fate and our own country and our own democracy. And we are beginning to do that. And there's a lot more going on around this. Another example is they tried to eliminate the ethics office in the House I'm sure you heard about this. And there was such an outcry, they dropped it in about a day because people just said, it's horrible, you can't do this. And then just huge outrage all over the internet, all over the media, and they dropped the whole idea. This is probably what's going to happen with some of their efforts to repeal Obamacare. Wait till that one hits the airwaves and that starts. It's going to be one heck of a battle over all of these things, and it's not going to be simple. Now, the other thing is, what I got was Trump will defeat himself through his own ego errors. The forces he's setting in motion will rebound on him, and all the evil deeds will be exposed on or before the day of revelation, including the manipulation of the voting machines. So it's realistic for us to maintain hope and vision for the lighted future we're all creating together, with faith and optimism and clear vision of the world we intend and expect. Because as I'm constantly hopping on, what we hold is what you get. What we see inwardly is what you get. So we have to hold that vision very powerfully of where we want to be in the future and stand in that future and be there with that. And that's our way of creating what we want. And we certainly don't want hardly anything that Trump is proposing and all of the people around him. So, and they're saying that, you know, with the day of revelation, he will be gone, and so will Mike Pence, and we will have a new kind of government. Yes, Tom say maniacs as Hitler and such always self-destruct. True, because if they're channeling a negative energy, the negative energy ultimately destroys them. And that is exactly what happens. So, and now people are, so I'll take a little bit more. All right, let's go a little more with this. I'll answer some of these questions because they're good questions. Is it important to encourage peaceful actions by activists and avoid martial law? Yes, of course. And this is from Charlotte. Now, an important sentence in this, I think, is I heard some concerns along these lines. Here's the key thing. There are so many people working for the cabal, what's left of the cabal, and who are just terrified themselves of what's going to happen. And they start putting out all kinds of amazing nonsense on the internet about what's going to happen in financial circles with martial law, with rounding up people and putting them in camps, you name it, massive amounts of this stuff. But it's all just people's own fear-based thinking and ideas. You know, there may be even some plans to do some of these things a little bit. They will not work. We are too far down the road towards the fifth dimension to be dragged back to pre-World War II into some fascist empire. It's just not going to happen. It's against the will of the people. It's against the will of Shambhala, the center that holds the will for our planet. And it's against the will of the solar being and every part of the galaxy we're part of. It's just not on the table. You got to get this so that you can just listen to all this, if you want to, listen to this nonsense and say, oh yeah, that's somebody's fantasy. It's not real. You have to understand what's real is what's internalized in the real consciousness and the will and the power of these higher levels of being and consciousness. That's real. And there is no individual on this planet, no matter who it is, who can countermand the will of the solar logos for our planet. And the will of the solar logos, as best as I can understand it and what's been given to me, is we are going to move out of Kali Yuga into Satya Yuga and not very long from now. And that is going to happen. And nothing, absolutely anything anyone can do on Earth can stop it. So that's the good news. I hope you can take that in and feel it. I want you to feel it because it doesn't make any sense. Just think about it. We've gone through this incredible evolution, 18 million years of evolution and all the things that have happened to get humanity to where we are today. We survived 2 world wars, epidemics, crises after crises, 9/11, everything else. And we're right on the verge of really coming together as a united consciousness on this planet. Do you think that the higher power is going to say, okay, we give up, no more support, we'll just let them blow themselves to bits or do whatever stupid thing they want to do? Not happening. All right. So Catherine Corrine asked, what's the question?
Yeah.
Yes, the day of revelation is still on schedule. As I have said, it's 4 to 5 months after the day of revelation. I asked them, what's the chances of this not happening? They said less than 1%. Take it in. Okay, there it is. It is really, really going to happen. There is no... Okay, someone says they don't feel the evil or negativity coming off Donald Trump. I don't think he's, at heart of hearts, evil in any kind of possessed by the dark forces. I don't feel that. I would agree with that. But he is possessed by his own ego. And he is possessed by his own will to power. And he wants to have ultimate control and be and even more possessed by his own need for recognition, for adoration, and to be the one glorified by all. That is a type of ignorance, of unevolved consciousness. And you can define it as evil if you say he's persisting in something he should have outgrown. Do you realize what a server of humanity Trump could be if he went through some kind of a road to Damascus conversion? I mean, he's powerful. He's very powerful. No doubt about it. But as long as he's only serving himself, he is disqualified from really contributing what his gifts are. So yes, we can all visualize and pray that he will shift. And but I must say, I was informed by the my contact, that there was a major attempt to turn him in exactly that way to become a benefactor of humanity, but it was not successful. They could not get through to him. It did not work. And so they're working along the line that this is what we're going to have. He's going to be there. And he's going to be as he is, pretty much. Maybe some slight modifications, but that is where what we have to be prepared to work with. And by work with, I mean counteract it and deal with it and not be terrified of what he can do. Because what he actually will be able to do will be limited by the will of the people, the will of Shambhala, and the will of the solar being. Okay? If I'm wrong, you can do whatever, stop listening to me. But I'm very conscious and confident that that is what's going to be occurring. So, yeah, after the inauguration, yeah.
You said after the revelation.
No, sorry. After I didn't say revelation. I said inauguration. The day of revelation will be some months, somewhere 3 to 5 months, something like that, after the inauguration, when everything is right. One of the reasons it's not immediate is because people need to experience that they have the power to oppose these crackpot ideas and policies and take back the power and stop them and create what we really want as humanity. All of humanity who has an open heart, we all want the good of all. We want the good of the planet. We want the good of nature. We don't want to destroy nature with drilling more oil stuff and fracking and all this horrible garbage. We don't want that. Anyone who's at all remotely conscious. People who run the oil companies, they love it. They make more money. Yes, and the governors of the states get more money for the state. They have more power. Isn't that great? Well, it's not great, as you all know, I imagine most of you. And that is not what is going to occur in the long run. We may have to go through some period of more of this kind of nonsense, but fracking is on its way out. They've banned dumping wastewater from these processes, injecting it into the aquifer in California. That's just happened about a week ago. Wonderful, God bless you. And we are more and more, the economics of fracking is falling apart because the pipeline is now in great question whether there's ever going to be a pipeline to move it from the Dakotas down into where it's needed. All that is coming apart. And so the fracking is tapering off, and that is exactly what we want. And that is beautiful. In the meanwhile, wind and solar is coming on like gangbusters. It's growing radically. I read it's like 104,000 new solar installations every week or every month. It's unbelievable what's going on with solar. because they've gotten the price down and the efficiency up so that it becomes totally economically feasible. So there we are. You can't stop that. Right. Okay. So I didn't say send Trump anything. I said just imagine that he is going to. My strategy for Trump is every time something comes on about Trump, I turn it off. Every time I see an article about Trump, I don't read it because I don't need to read it. I know exactly what his game is. I know what they're trying to do. And there's no point in feeding more energy into it. And because when people read these things, there's so much fear around it that you vibe into all their fear. And then you're really sucked into all that, because there is a miasm here in this country around fear of Trump, fear of what they're going to do, fear of losing people, losing their health care, losing their Social Security, on and on and on. There is that. It's present, and it's understandable for people who don't have a higher vision. And you can thank God you do have a higher vision, because you can step out of that miasm of fear and anxiety and all the rest of it and just stand in the truth of this will not stand. And so that is really important. Okay, so now people don't like wind energy. Yes, I know there are issues around the birds and all that, but wind energy is probably here to stay. We have to find a way to use electromagnetic pulsing to keep the birds away from the windmills, which can be done. Anyway, so and someone says your prayer and meditation moves you into a consciousness where you are overcome and eventually eliminates negativity. That's true. That's true. And you need to be able to stay in that space. You proceed through this whole process. It's not what goes on. Okay, now there's a question about the Women's March. I think the Women's March is a wonderful idea, which I doubt it will be. And it demonstrates a huge... It will not be violent. It will be nonviolent, and it demonstrates how many women, and I understand men are also invited, how many people are standing for the rights of women. Let me read you something. This is
the day after the inauguration.
It's just the day after the inauguration. There's also another plan which I so much love. I haven't heard much about it lately, but this is something that Robert Reich came up with, because Trump's having so much trouble getting any well-known entertainers to be at the inauguration. Almost none of them are almost no well-known person is going to be at the inauguration to perform. And then Robert Reich said, let's have an alternative event at exact time of the inauguration and invite all these entertainers to come and have a huge online thing and raise money for all the nonprofits who support the things we believe in. And there's a lot of interest in this. And there was talk about doing it in Miami. I haven't heard anything recently about whether that's really going to come off or not. But I thought that was such a beautiful example of that, that actually was there. So I really think that is, I don't know if that's going to happen. But so let's see what else we got here. Okay, I cannot go through and give you the Agni Yoga references. I will tell you what you can do. If you want to explore those quotes, you simply go to the website of White Mountain Educational Association. White Mountain Educational Association, you can Google it, and they have the text of the Agni Yoga books up there, and you have a search function. So you can go in there and use the search function and just Google Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga, if you want to find those quotes, and they'll all come up for you. So that's the way you can access that. So I want to share with you Russian influence on Trump. Okay, the Russian influence. Yes, this is a very important, very interesting issue. There's no question that the Russians interfered with the election. I mean, I think that's incontrovertible at this point, and given all the evidence that's been assembled, and most of the responsible people in Congress accept what the intelligence community is saying. And Trump is supporting Putin, and support. Of course, Trump's going to support Putin because Putin helped get him elected. I mean, Trump has no concerns about what does this mean for foreign policy issues. He's only concerned about, I'm happy that he helped me, and I don't want people to discredit my election by believing in that the Russians interfered. Therefore, the whole intelligence community is completely not worth anything. That's his solution to the fact that all this information is there. It's ludicrous. It is absolutely nuts. But he's doing it, but nobody's backing him. That's the good thing. If you look at the paper today, in the New York Times say no agencies, nobody's really backing his contention that the intelligence agencies are wrong. They aren't wrong. He did do all this. Putin did do all this. However, the key thing is the ultimate manipulation of the voting machines on the compiling of the votes, which gave Trump the 4 key states, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, whatever they were, did not happen as a result of the Russians. It was done by people in some political operatives in the Republican Party, or people who did not want Hillary to become president. That was clear. That's what I got very clearly about it. And some of you who've read the statistical analyses of the way the votes showed up and where the difference when they had paper ballots versus machine balloting, there's huge red flags there, but nobody's really paying that much attention to it. And that's part of this Russian thing, is a smokescreen to keep people away from law. That's the same thing they did with Bush-Gore election. But all this is going to come to light. I wouldn't believe Julian Assange for 5 minutes. That's my view. I don't feel like he is a person of integrity. And clearly, he had a huge agenda to defeat Hillary for whatever his reasons were. And that is, I just don't trust him at all. I think he's very self-serving and doing whatever he's doing. I would trust, what's his name, who's in Russia? The young guy who fled to Russia. Snowden. I would trust him more than Julian Assange, but not Assange. I feel like there's too much manipulation going on. Yeah, Marguerite's saying that the intelligence community has especially the CIA. Yes, that's true. I can't argue with that. But, I do think that there is a whole complex game going on. But the basic thing is the election was not a fair election. That's pretty clear. If you look at the evidence and you examine it and all that. So, everybody has to make their own choices. I'm not going to tell you what you should believe. You need to do your own thing. Do whatever you feel is true about this. But I'm just telling you my views. You can do whatever you like about it or not. So, but let's go on then from here to another example of how people are rising up and opposing Trump is the American Medical Association is written a letter to the Republicans and to Trump saying if they eliminate Obamacare, it's going to cause chaos in the medical insurance markets. It's going to deprive 20 million people of health insurance, which is true, and it's going to cause huge amount of upheaval and suffering and difficulties for everyone. That is very clear, and that's great. AMA has got a lot of negative history. I understand all that, but anyway, that is part of what we're dealing with here. So, this is what we, as a people, have to stand up for, is the right for people to have decent health care. Now, we all know the problems with the current healthcare system and the drug companies and all of it. It is a very corrupted field. But in the end, we are going to have a new system. and it's going to be different, and it will be fairer, and it will be based on all kinds of new medical technologies that not currently being used, except by a few members of the cabal who have access to them. And that is not right, of course, and that will be shifted as we go along. That's kind of where I am. Let's see whether we have any other questions here that we need to look at. I mean, I don't think calling people names is very useful as someone's doing about Snowden without any information to back it up or anything. It's just name calling. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's irrelevant. It's just to be information and evidence and all that, and then just making all kinds of assertions doesn't count. Yeah, and there are always people coming onto these events like this one who are trolls, who are working to discredit and cause more confusion and more darkness. That's what they do. Now, Phil is asking, will there be any disclosure before this revelation? As I've said before, the plan is for the shifting of the financial system. Some of it could begin before the day of revelations. A lot of it will happen after the day of revelation. Reorganization of the whole system, basically change all the debt, all the money system, all of it. The banks will be recharted as public non-public entities, public utilities. All this will be shifted. And people will know that they will have a certain amount of money available to them at all times for life support. All this, huge shifts, inconceivable. Until that occurs, we aren't going to have full major disclosure. There's a gradual revealing of certain aspects of things by certain people in the agencies that want to do this, but mean that that we're going to have the ETs landing on the White House lawn or in front of the UN and saying, "We are here, take me to your leader." It's not going to happen because humanity's not ready for it. There's too much fear, too much insecurity, and too much crazy fundamentalism. Can you imagine what the fundamentalists would do if the ETs actually showed up? They would assume it's the devil. Anyone who believes in them believes in the devil, and therefore let's kill all the people who believe in the devil, or some such. Could happen. We can't have that. We can't have those conditions. That it just wouldn't work. It would be a disaster. And it's not going to happen until there's a stabilization and a removal of all those who really hate and do not understand and hold any love. When they're gone, then everything is possible. And that's what we're going to see. So that's on disclosure. Okay, someone's saying, is it true that Mr. Jerry Brown wants to see California become independent?
Succeed.
Union. I believe we already fought that war. I don't think we're going to fight it again. Not happening. I mean, I don't know who said that. I've never seen any statement directly from Jerry Brown saying that we should be independent from the rest of the country. I've never seen anything like that, and nor heard anyone reporting that he said that. People have said that. Yes, a lot of people say we should secede, blah, 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 but they don't have any influence. They just, it's like people say anything. You have to realize that this is a crazy world where all opinions are out there on the table. We've never had this condition before because we have the internet now. It changes the way information flows, and anything can be seen as possible or believable unless you have a very strong, rational, intuitive approach to analyzing and assessing everything that you read. If you don't do that, you're a sucker. And I got suckered recently. They got onto my computer and messed up with my computer. They won't do it again. But it's so easy for that to happen. So you've got to be careful about what you do with all that. All right, so lots of questions here. What is happening in Antarctica? Well, it seems as though there is a focal point there in Antarctica for a whole, it has been a focal point of the cabal in the past. That's what I got. And that is has been shifted for the most part into control of the light forces. That's what I've gotten about it, which is like a base that was originally created by the Nazis. That's true. They went down there in submarines. You may know the story of Admiral Byrd going down there with a whole fleet, and they were attacked by UFOs, and some of the ships were sunk, and a lot of people died. That was right after the war, and it was when the Cabal still had really a lot of power and alliance with the dark ETs. That's no longer true, and that's all gone. So, but it was definitely an issue. Well, okay, so yeah, I think it's always good to focus on our own prayer and meditation. That is my fundamental message, that you need to be holding your own point of consciousness in as positive, loving a space as possible, and that really is your default position. I always say, when you take in stuff from news, from people, from articles, videos, whatever you take in, you always have to look at what is the frequency effect on you. If it makes you feel frightened, if it makes you feel tense or doubting or confused, then you can bet your boots it's not coming from the light. And that's what you need to be aware of. And so we use our own internal monitoring system to really understand what it is we're actually being, faced with, what's coming at us. That's the most reliable indicator of all. And you have to look at the quality of the communication, the quality of the underlying worldview that communication is coming from, the quality of the person who's making that communication. What do you notice about their energy? What do you notice about their face? What do you notice about anything that gives you clues? Because it's a free-for-all now out there. Anything and everything can be put out and can sound very convincing, complete with videos, maps, evidence, you name it. But the trolls and the dark side have multiple billions of dollars to invest in putting out disinformation on the internet. And they have said this up front. That's what Edelman said, and they have been doing it all through the election, and they're still doing it. And so you have to be extremely careful about what you take in and believe. You can listen to it, but believing it is another whole step. And you really need to have that step in your consciousness, because there's so many people who read that and go, oh my God, this is true. Oh, this is going to happen. And then you're just a piece of reactive protoplasm. No, just don't do that to yourself, ever. You really got to pay attention. Okay? All right. And thank you, Satya. That's a beautiful statement. And I appreciate that. And I do my best to try to stay in as high a state as I can be so that we can really perceive and experience the truth. Yes. And I agree with you, Eleanor, totally. We need to come from love and hold ourselves in love and take actions to resist whatever negative, harmful approaches or things that are being done. There's a key point, though, which is hard to always master, and this is what was recommended even during Second World War by some of the great teachers. You can fight and resist Hitler completely, but don't hold hatred in your heart for Hitler. I know that's challenging, and it's the same for Trump or anyone else who's doing horrible stuff that you really disagree with and know in your heart of hearts is really wrong and evil and harmful to many, many people. We must resist it with every fiber of our being. If that's our dharma, if we're in the warrior group that's supposed to be doing that resistance, then we should be doing it or supporting those people who are in that warrior group. And I want to talk about Standing Rock because I think there's something very powerful going on with Stand Rock. I don't know about Corey Good. What's the question about Corey Good? I don't see it here right now.
About disclosure.
Yeah, well, I don't know what he's saying about disclosure. I don't follow what he says, so I can't really answer it if it's about disclosure. My fundamental statement about disclosure holds that we won't see it until we've stabilized this planet. Can't do it right now. It's not going to happen. Maybe small mini bits of information will come out here and there, but when I say disclosure, I mean the galactic members of the Galactic Light Alliance actually being present here, widely visible. There are some here already interacting with people, but not in a very broad public manner. That's not meant to happen until it's more stabilized. Now, the Sacred Warrior, let's talk about this, because I really wanted to talk about Standing Rock, because I got some people have asked me about it, and I hadn't really gotten into it, but I have some beautiful stuff about Standing Rock, and I really want to share it with you if I can find it. Where the heck is it? Oh my goodness. Where is it? And there's another thing I want to talk about too. Let me just see. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't have this right in my finger. Ah, here it is. Okay. All right. Okay. This is like a direct transmission. I'm just going to read it to you because it's in the something I received from the master directly, and I wanted to, and it addresses the Sacred Warrior issue, and I want to just read this to you so you can get the full impact of it. It's really, I think it's really powerful and moving. Okay. Standing Rock is a focal point for those souls who have karma to resolve in relationship to the native peoples of North America. Brought them to Standing Rock to stand as a bulwark against the mindless exploitation and destruction of the natural beauty of Earth. The hardships they are enduring allows the release of some of their karma have subconsciously chosen to accomplish at this time. The native peoples, because of their potent relationship to the earth elements and Davic or angelic life, are sensitized and activated by the stress of Mother Earth and the Divine Mother. And determination are a symbol, an example of what will be required of all lighted workers in the times ahead. It is establishing an archetype of what it means to stand for the light, for protection of the earth, in solidarity with all people who have this love and caring within their hearts. They are touching the hearts and souls of people all over the world who are supporting them with prayers, meditations, love, and financial support. Anchoring a powerful archetype in modern times for putting your life and entire being on the line in support of the good, the right, and the true. The members of the military present there who asked for forgiveness from the native people and their leaders for all the atrocities against them throughout history is a very powerful statement which resonates in the heart of all lighted beings, bringing light and redemption to the horrific hidden history of America. It is a precursor, this process of forgiveness, is a precursor to the worldwide forgiveness that will arise with the day of revelation as humanity awakens to the spiritual fact that we are all one, and one with all life, and any injury done to any part of the beautiful woven fabric of life requires atonement and forgiveness. So that's what the masters think about Standing Rock. I hope you find that as moving as I do. It is an extraordinary, beautiful statement of what is really going on at multiple levels. And I've always felt this tremendous connection to what's going on there. And it's so moving, I can barely talk about it without getting really emotional. So anyway.
Just all those positive things.
Oh, yeah. So now, if anyone has any other burning questions, you can put them up there. And I think I will put that statement I just read up on the Live the Future Now forum on Facebook so that other people can read it. As I think that would be great. And so that way you'll have a copy of it and be able to distribute it as widely as you want. And I can send it to you as an email. I'll just put it on the website and on the Facebook, and you can get it from there. Okay, so thank you. I'm glad you are able to feel it the way I do. The wonderful thing, people have said, "Oh, 2016 was such a horrible year," blah blah blah. Oh yes, somebody wants to. Oh yes. We need to talk about that. I'll let you talk about the inauguration. Not yet, but we will. Okay. We're going to offer a meditation on the day of inauguration. And we do this every year, every time there's a new president. And we will share this with you in a moment. Kareem will tell you all about it and how you can participate, which I think is really important. So, people say 2016 was such a horrible year. It was also awful, awful, awful. Some of you probably have seen this. Someone put together 99 reasons why 2016 was a good year for humanity. And I'm going to read you some of these because they are very interesting. And I want to just give you a different view. And I'll put these up also on Facebook and the website. So you can look at these. Well, I don't know about Facebook. It's too long. We'll put it on the website. And that way you can access this.
Give them the name of the website.
And the website is livethefuturenow.com. That's our main website. So one of the good things that happened in 2016 was British Columbia protected 85% of one of the world's largest temperate rainforests, home to the wonderfully named spirit bear. I guess there's some bear there they call spirit bear, which is nice. More than 20 countries pledged more than $5.3 billion for ocean conservation and created 40 new marine sanctuaries covering an area of 3.4 million square kilometers in 2016. In December, the U.S. and Canada announced a joint permanent ban on all offshore oil and gas activity in the Arctic. Not bad. Good old Justin and Obama. What a team. The World Health Organization said that since the year 2000, global malaria deaths have declined by 60%. 93% of the kids around the world learned to read and write this year. That's the highest proportion in human history. And the gender gap between girls and boys in school narrowed to in 2016 also. In 1990, 60% of the people in East Asia lived in extreme poverty. As of 2016, this has dropped to 3.5% from 60%. That is wonderful. Homelessness in the United States declined by 35% since 2007, and Los Angeles committed $1.2 billion to help get people off the street. 2016 marked the 24th year in a row that teenage pregnancy rates declined in the United States and the UK. The global carbon emissions from burning fossil fuels did not grow at all in 2016. It's the third year in a row that emissions have flatlined. Renewable energy now account for more newly installed capacity than any other form of electricity in the world, including coal. The Chinese government has placed a ban on new coal mines and created new rules for grid access and doubled its renewable targets for 2020. 25% of European countries announced they had quit using coal. The BRICS, the new development bank, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, approved $1 billion in renewable investments in China, Brazil, South Africa, and India. Costa Rica, this 2016, ran solely on renewable energy, the entire country, for over 100 days, and it's now aiming for the entire year without fossil fuels. It just goes on and on, you know. Okay, the International Energy Agency reported that 500,000 solar panels were installed each day around the world. In 2015, it's probably even more in 2016. Mexico put in $6 billion in renewables, Argentina $2.7 billion, Scotland connected its underwater turbines for the first time.
And Sharon, the website.
Yeah. Okay, good. There's the website, Sharon. Thank you for putting that up about the 99 reasons. It's really a great thing. And there's a lot more. I'm only giving you some highlights. In June, a new survey showed that the ozone hole has shrunk by more than 3.9 million square kilometers since 2006. Scientists now think it will be fully healed by 2050. And in July, 800,000 volunteers in India planted 50 million trees in one day. And they're planning on reforesting 12% of all their land in India. Oh, and humpback whales were removed from the endangered species list, having fully recovered in the last 46 years. When I said this to my last presentation, I said humpback males were removed from the endangered species list. So hopefully we will see the humpback males also move into a new level of consciousness and be removed from endangered species list. And so it goes on and on, but I think 2015 was America's most generous year ever, with charitable donations from individuals, states, and foundations and corporations reaching record levels. And 2016 is on track to be even higher. So it is happening. There is a lot happening here that is very, very, very positive for our world, for us, for humanity, and it's all unfolding as it should. And we will see as this moving forward as we continue to support the good, the true, and the beautiful, and stand as a bulwark, a wall against evil doing, and support all the good that we know is so present here on our planet. And Kareen's going to tell you about our meditation for the inauguration. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, every year for the last 20 years, we have had a meditation, a nonpartisan meditation for the inauguration. No matter who, Republican or Democrat, comes in, we want to continue that tradition. We do this through our nonprofit, the Center for Visionary Leadership, and you can go to visionarylead, LEAD.org to register, so you'll get the link. We're going to use the same technology as we're using here. So we want to invite you to join us. It's on January 20th, Inauguration Day, at 11 a.m. Eastern Time or 8 a.m. California time. And we'll do the meditation, and we'll have an opportunity if you want to add chat like we're doing today with this program. And the idea is to bring in positive energy and purify negative energy that may be in the field of this incoming administration. So it's very key that we just stand back, be more detached, and ask for the highest good coming through. And it's very needed. So please join us, if you will, and pass the word. Right. And we have the meditation. I think it's up there now on our website.
And it's on the website, Live the Future Now, and it's also right here. And you can register by clicking on the link that's showing here, and you will be signed up, and you'll get a notification of when it starts in advance, so you'll be able to be reminded about the meditation.
Yes.
All right, folks. Well, I hope this was helpful, and of use to you. It certainly is my intention to make it so. And we will be coming back with you again in about a month, as always. And oh yes, and Ginger's reminding us to please remember to support Galactic News. Your donations are very, very appreciated, necessary to continue to cover the costs of this webinar jam system and other costs we have associated with this work. So it's very, very beneficial to have your support, and many have already done this. And so I just thank you so much for what you do. And the link for giving support is up there under where it says, Ginger, don't forget to support Galactic News.
Also, just to let you know, with our visionarylead.org website, there's a lot of articles. There's a lot of videos on positive politics, on sustainable business, on spirituality and meditation, many helpful educational materials that we've developed over the years. So check it out if you haven't been there yet. Okay?
Great. All right. Well, thank you all for your attention. And I know you will be putting all of this to great good use, because the world needs what you have and in your consciousness. And I'm sure you will find extremely creative and exciting ways to express this to everyone you meet. So love and blessings to everyone. And we look forward to seeing you soon. God bless and surround you with light and love. And you always be safe within the arms of the One Life.
Have a good month.